After deciding on my fall and winter sewing plans, I started working on them. I started with the coat. I cut out the elements of the jacket from the main fabric. Since the fabric is quite long and therefore difficult to handle, I cut a piece of it which I ironed thoroughly, then pinned the patterns on it and cut them out. Then I cut another piece of fabric for the next pattern pieces. Cutting out the fabric is a bit boring and monotonous process, and I was looking forward to finally being able to start sewing. I made a toile earlier to check the size. I think the size will be good, but the jacket was a little long. I had a bit of a hard time to figure out how much to shorten because the part about hemming in the instruction was quite strange and somehow I couldn't imagine it without the elements in front of me. In the end, I shortened the length of the jacket by 12 centimeters and I hope I made the right decision. After I was done with cutting, I checked the instructions on how to start sewing. I followed the order of the instructions and first sewed the darts on the back. I marked the darts, pinned and sewed them. Then I pressed the darts to the center back. Next I made the belt. I would have made it later, but according to the instructions, this was the next step. sewing was easy. I trimmed the seam allowance with pinking shears, turned the bat inside out and pressed it thoroughly. I hand sewed the gap closed and the bat was ready. After that, I changed the order of sewing because I wanted to finish the shell of the jacket. Next, I prepared the pockets. For this, I also cut out the pocket pattern from the lining fabric. I pinned it to the main fabric, sewed it, trimmed the seam allowance with pinking shears, turned it inside out and pressed it. I base stitched the bottom part. I didn't like that the bottom part was unfinished, so I overlocked this side. I made a note about this modification in my notebook. I like to take notes during sewing so I can refer to them next time. Then the pockets had to be sewn to the front of the jacket. I messed around with the positioning of the pockets because I wanted to make sure that they were located in the same place on both sides. After I felt that they were in the right place, I carefully sewed them on. Due to the pattern of the fabric, the sewn-on pockets are hard to see. Next time, however, I will make the lining a little smaller because it shows in some places and I couldn't fix it. The next step was easier. I assembled the front and back panels of the jacket. First I sewed the back panels together. Then I sewed the front panels to the back, at the shoulders and on the sides. I did one side at a time. I trimmed the seam allowances with pinking shears and pressed them open. After that I knitted a little bit and worked on the cardigan. I still feel a bit clumsy, but maybe my knitting has improved a bit because I think I can knit the knit rows faster than the purl ones. I haven't knitted much in the last couple of weeks because I also have another yarn project that I want to finish so I can focus on the cardigan. The next day I continued working on the jacket. The next step was to sew the belt loops on the jacket, which I had already prepared. I overlocked the edges of the belt loops too. I thought sewing on the pockets was fiddly, but I was wrong. This was much worse. Again, I had trouble with the positioning, and I had to deal with quite a lot of fabric while sewing. Next time I will sew the belt loops on the back before I sew the back and front panels together. Even if they are not completely symmetrical, maybe it won't show because of the busy pattern. Then I noticed that the opening of the belt loop seemed smaller compared to the width of the belt. I checked and the belt was indeed wider. I don't know where I messed up, but luckily it's not that big of a problem. I will sew a new belt. Then I sewed the underarm seams of the sleeves together and sewed them onto the jacket. I also had to shorten the sleeves by 5.5 centimeters. I put the jacket aside because I wanted to work on the blouse, but first I transferred the pins because they always end up at the sewing machine. I have used the Oral blouse pattern several times before, so the sewing went faster. I already cut out the elements and pinned the darts, I just had to sew and press them. Then I sewed the elements of the blouse together, which consisted of the front, the back and the yoke. I finished the seams with overlocking the edges. I ironed interfacing onto a piece of fabric, then I cut out the facing. Cotton satin is a slippery fabric, so it was easier to work with it that way. I sewed the shorter ends together, then overlocked the outer edge of the facing. I pinned it to the neckline, sewed it on, trimmed the seam allowance with pinking shears, pressed and understitched it. I pressed the neckline once again, and the base of the blouse was finished. In the meantime it got late, so I packed up my knitting because I decided to knit later in the evening while watching TV. I find knitting very relaxing. However, while knitting I have come across several things that I did not yet know or understand. I immediately looked for the answers to those questions. For example, this is how I learned that the first stitch on the knitting needle also counts, that the knit stitch on the other side is the purl stitch. I already recognized the knit and the purl stitches, and I learned how to change to a larger knitting needle. I'm sure there's still a lot I don't know, but I really enjoy learning. The next day I continued working on the jacket. I have already prepared the hood from the main fabric to check the size. Luckily the size was good, so I didn't have to bother with adjustments. I cut out the lining and sewed the two sides together. Then I pinned the main fabric to the lining and sewed it together at the face opening. I trimmed the seam allowance with pinking shears, pressed and understitched it. I base stitched at the bottom and the hood was finished. I quickly sewed the button placket onto the jacket and then worked on my knitting project. After sewing, it's good to make myself comfy and just knit. Currently the cardigan is about 12 centimeters long. I have 5 more yarn balls and I'm afraid that this amount won't be enough to finish the cardigan. I think I will order more yarn.